The action of gold in painting might seem like a strange topic for someone who works on early Renaissance art, since the most important European theorist of painting, Leon Battista Alberti, who was writing in the 1430s, was disparaging about the use of real gold by painters of the kind we see here. In his treatise, De Pictura, he encouraged the idea that the surface of a painting be thought of as like a window. So it's a kind of aperture through which one sees beyond the surface. And for him, there was much greater credit to be had for an illusionistic representation, in paint alone, of the reflective shine of gold, like this gold brocaded velvet in a panel by Jan van Eyck, than in using gold leaf itself. And he also objected to the way that gold leaf, when it's polished to a deep shine on the panel, disrupted these careful depictions of tonal change in painting. So potentially it either jumps forward brightly when reflecting light rays towards the viewer, or appears dark. So it was both visually unstable and unpredictable. And he thought, therefore, it was best reserved for the picture frame. If we look at this painting by Gentile da Fabriano, we can see how the halo of Mary and the border of this silk cloth behind her, both laid with leaf, illuminate. But the painter's been very careful to control this effect. He's toned down the gold of the silk cloth with transparent paint glazes so that it does not compete in brilliance with the Virgin's massive, mysteriously inscribed halo. So to show a bit better where this instability I'm talking about comes in, I've got a small wooden panel here that was made in our material studies lab, and it's closely following, in the way it's made, 15th century technical instructions. And although the gold is deliberately aged, so you can see through to the typical red preparatory layer, it does give a sense of the decorative quality and the warmth, and I think the dynamism of a surface that's laid with gold leaf and burnished. So if I kind of move it in the daylight here, you can see how that flash of gold flashes back, a bit like a switch turning on and off. And it's really this that Alberti is disturbed by. So let's go back to Italy and paintings that Alberti could have seen in Florence at the time he was writing, and take a more critical look at this suggestion that a painter's skill was somehow not engaged when using real gold. So in this little nighttime nativity by Gentile da Fabriano, the gold leaf that's been laid around the angel in the sky and the child on the ground has been tooled to make it seem as though each are irradiating otherworldly light. But then the effect is enhanced by the painting of the shepherds. You can see there the cave, the doorway, and so on, as though they're reflecting or experiencing that light. In this painting, the brilliant light of heaven associated with divine power is shown directly, and this depends on great optical sophistication. Fra Angelico offers a joyful vision of a kind of heavenly glory that irradiates the whole composition like a sun or a star. The explosion of shine from within the picture has been produced by ruling tight, evenly spaced lines like the spokes of a wheel into the gold ground, so that they seem to emanate from a central point. And that point is carefully hidden behind a cloud and seems to reference the invisible, the ungraspable God point that was described by the Florentine poet Dante in his visionary description of paradise, and that blinding radiance that he associates with paradise. Here, the saints are enjoying the vision of God, and the central wheel of light is answered by all those little neat circles of light on the heads of the blessed, who turn to look into the source or draw us to it with their gestures. This photo also gives some idea of what happens to the painting, as it were, dramatically, when it's seen under different exterior light sources. So bright rays swap kind of unpredictably to dark and vice versa. What such a static photo can't show is how, when you walk past the altarpiece, this wheel of light seems to turn around the hidden central point as light is reflected from changing angles relative to the eye. It's a stunning special effect. Here is a small portable triptych that's opened to show the Last Judgment, where the emanating light seems to have become much more heated and less benign. So the glory around Jesus going up into heaven to the left is produced by making these tight lines tooled into the gold undulate. And this ripple effect, which must have been extremely difficult to achieve, creates a kind of throbbing radiation. And it looks positively angry when issuing from the figure of Christ, who's sitting there as judge at the end of time, and he's smiting the damned. None of this would have been possible without an understanding of optics, so the science of light, as well as that poetic power of the visionary. What we also see is how the effective power and meaning of the work emerges not just from the treatment of the subject, but from the material stuff of the object. And this is one of the lessons of what have been called the material turn in recent art history. By looking more closely at how gold has been manipulated to act, we get to see how 600-year-old paintings, even those that show their age, still respond to us, and the bright spotlight turned on them by the contemporary world.